Welcome to For Comics Sake, episode 8. It is May 20th, 2024, and I am your host, J.Crager. Welcome to the only show that gives away art weekly to their chat, to their fans, and please like, subscribe, share this out. Tonight, as always, my co-host, William Perdomo.
Hello, my friend. Can you believe it? 8 already?
Yeah, 8. It's happened quick. So
I can't believe it.
It's going. And tonight we have Momentum Flyer, Devil Momentum Flyer Rex as our artist that will be suffering the Wheel of Pain tonight with us. Welcome, Rex.
Welcome to you.
Welcome.
Hey, Will.
Glad to have you.
How are you currently?
It's good to be on here. Doing well. We had our first meeting at my daytime job, so that'll be gearing up. And so I'm glad to get on here because it'll be, shows like this will be precluded unless it rains, and then that's iffy, and you can't schedule anything. But I guess I'll have to stream earlier, with people like I did today.
Well, I appreciate you coming out. I know it's probably late where you are, and
10 o'clock. It's not too bad.
Yeah, we'll try to make this quick, obviously. So
people ask me who does my hair. I tell them my pillow.
Perfectly.
Yes,
looks great.
Thank you.
It's nice.
I got a nice pillow. My pillow.
Didn't that guy go out of business? What's going on?
No, he's coming under a lot of heat, but lost a lot of but he's still going strong. Yeah.
Well, good.
But my pillow has not solved my neck problem.
Oh, fair enough.
That guy's got over 125 products or something. He's expanded.
He might be okay for a while then.
Yeah.
That's good. Good for him.
Welcome, Tokame.
Hey, Tokame.
I wasn't flicking you off. I was rubbing my nose. Now we have the other Jason, the other white.
Hey, Jay.
Welcome.
Hey, Jay. Hey, Tokame.
How Dear is here.
Hello.
Hello, How Dear.
The Madman. There he is.
Marco. Yeah.
And then a new gentleman.
Omer Glitch.
Mm-hmm. Omer Glitch. Welcome.
Hello, sir. Hello.
And of course, hello, Marco. We just said hello, but hello again.
Hello
and
again.
That is everybody so far.
That's awesome. Let's get in here and
let me get the Wheel of Pain and see all these weird things that people have suggested.
Yeah.
There we go. Shall we? Do you see the suggestions on there?
Yeah.
Conan was the first movie I snuck in. Well, no, it's the second movie. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was the first one.
Really?
Mine was Navy SEALs.
It was. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That had the actor that was in Terminator in it.
Right? Michael Biehn and Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, Michael Biehn. Ringo. He's one of those underrated. Never got the big, leading roles. He's a better actor than what Hollywood's treated him,
I mean, he's been in good stuff. I thought he was
he was
formidable in The Abyss. He was a good villain.
Oh, yeah. Conan was the first one I snuck into in a drive-through.
Ooh.
Were you in the trunk?
I was in a 67 Cutlass. My first car. Red interior with a white exterior.
Hello, Hockey. Welcome.
Hey, Hockey. We can begin now. Hockey's here.
All right. Well, we've talked about stealing from corporations who exhibit films, and we'll do that after the Wheel of Pain. And
I don't think we'll have to use the Wheel of Pain because Hockey's in the future, and he already knows what it's going to be.
Hockey. Give me a break.
Hockey. Hockey's got in the killer book too.
All right. Well, How Dear is here, so we can't say
How
we
Dear
didn't
is
see
here.
it.
Yeah.
You know,
Avakia from
Avakai from Dark.
I don't even know what that is.
I wouldn't even know what that is.
In the Twitter.
Shit.
I bet you can Google it.
I guess I gotta have to.
Yeah, you wanted something easy.
And he's been suggesting that every week since we started.
Avakai from
Avakian. I'm sorry. I apologize for misspelling it. It's Avakian. So Avakian.
Fuck. I don't even know what this is.
I had an artist on today from Vienna.
Oh, nice. From Vienna.
Uh-huh.
Nice. Yeah, I think this will be easy. This is just like...
We have our subject.
Skeleton guts guy.
Do you draw, Rex? Every time I see you, you're always in the exact same position.
Looking down?
Yeah, literally, like you're like in the same position in your studio, looking in the same direction.
Yeah. Well, if I'm drawing, I'm looking down because I have in fact, everybody that backs Devil Flyer gets a 6x4 head sketch of some character.
Are you drawing tonight?
Sure, I can. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. I'll probably do some head sketches if that's okay.
That's fine.
And there's my neighbor, and then we're in the same state.
My neighbor. Hey, Matt.
Matt LaRock.
Wow.
He's another guy I'm looking forward to his book because he's always showing off different drawings and pages. And it's like for a year, it's been just like page after page of page. Is he just doing like an endless book?
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of these crowdfunders are big tomes, man. They're like 120 pages, 175 pages, death, over 300 pages. What the hell?
He's going for the Cerebus, the phone books.
Yeah. I mean, the Sears catalog,
I mean, that's what they called them. Remember they nicknamed Cerebus, those books?
Yeah, they were gnarly, man.
Thank you, Tokyo. I appreciate that.
Without the help of Gerard to do those backgrounds for Dave Sim on Cerebus, man.
Let me embiggen so we can see these.
Well, this is where I started out doing scratch artwork with some of my characters, and then I would just send the postcards out at New Year's time. And this was like 2016. I did one for 2017, kind of stopped, and then got into crowdfunding. And I draw, and I write. So I'm writing all the stories in my book. So
nice. Did you draw them also?
No. In fact, everybody, a lot of people thought I was just a writer when I came on because I didn't show a lot of my artwork. But no, I do it both. I only started writing like in 2017, but I think actually, if I've got to be honest, I'm probably a better writer than I am an artist.
Me too.
You're an Alan Moore type then. You're able to he can draw too.
Kenny, I don't know that I've seen
thumbnails his books.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He originally started as an artist, but he realized he was too slow to do it. Yeah. And it's kind of like you're slow. Yeah. He thought
it really comes alive when you ink. I enjoy the inking process, and you can kind of get a shorthand with that.
Sure.
It depends, some of the things I leave up to the inking process. I think the more complete pencils, you really see a shift in somebody like John Byrne, after he was doing X-Men, and then he kind of got a little lot looser when he went to like Alpha Flight and things like that. He even talked about that. I even read about that at the time. He was like not doing as tight as pencils and inking over his own work. I think sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad.
Right.
Hey,
Sensational She-Hulk is when I was first introduced.
Next one-page comic, what Hockey says.
Nice.
Indeed, bring back the ladies of the Sears catalog. That's another thing the whippersnappers don't know. They can access everything. We, unfortunately, had to wait in the mail to see our Dream Ladies.
So what are you drawing, Jay? I know what the title said, but what the hell is it?
So he's it looks like he's a skeleton kind of in a partially black and clear suit that's like
Oh,
containing
okay.
his bones. And it's kind of interesting looking. Like I'm really kind of interested in this.
Yeah. Well, I know you
Just
like skull-like characters and things like that.
oh yeah, man. I draw a lot of skull based characters. I think they're kind of creepy looking. So that's good.
Well, I try and lean into that with artists. What do they like to draw? And they're lean into their strong suit of what they like to draw. That way you kind of get the best out of them. But I also like to challenge them, and see what they can do.
Sure. Yeah, it just depends on what, like, usually I'll be interested in a story and then I'll choose a style that fits that story and then I just kind of run with it. And it just depends on what the story is usually. And I know that writers sometimes look for artists who do specific things. But I try to leave that stuff open, like where I can find my happy place, so to speak, which I like to say a lot. When it comes to like doing art. And when I'm able to find my shorthand for it, like the kind of stuff I did with Job on Death, it tends to work out for me. So it took me a little bit to figure out what I was kind of doing with Kill Journal. And but after like the second issue, everything was kind of cool after that. Like I just kind of figured out where I was going. And then it took me a little bit with Hammer too, but I find that I can find workarounds for certain things and kind of make the writer happy and make myself happy sometimes in the process.
Yeah. Well,
I learned about that the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell him.
I wanted originally
Dave.
when I approached Crager about working together, it was another project called Coliseum, which is a science fiction story about gladiators in a post-economic apocalypse America. And it was a movie script that was really, really overwritten. There was a lot of dialogue, a lot of characters. It was like kind of like Akira, where it had the street story, the political story, and then the meta story. So it was a lot going on. And I remember Crager I don't think he hated it. I think he liked it. He just, it was too much for him at the time, I think.
Yeah, my brain was like, dude, what are you doing?
How do you wrap around this? Yeah.
Oh,
he couldn't get his happy place on it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I wanted it to be more.
Not that you didn't try, right?
No, I totally tried. Like I read the whole thing. It's like 100 plus pages, 140, 50 pages.
Wow.
Okay. Me and Will could seriously talk about everything in it. And so I made sure that I was very well versed in it before I started to critique him. And the stuff I found interesting, I told him was interesting and would work well in a comic. And then the other stuff, that he kind of was doing, which was a lot of social political type stuff. Like nobody really wants to read a comic that's all politics, right? And the large percentage of this movie was about politics.
Yeah.
With a spattering of like fighting and a spattering of the Colosseum like ideology that we were trying to like we literally were trying to bring Rome into the future and have guardian or gladiator fights and all the stuff set in a modern day Coliseum. And I just wanted Will to wrap the story around the fight as opposed to the political stuff that was pushing the movie forward. Like, the movie would have been a cool movie. There was a lot of really cool stuff going on with it as a movie. But as a comic book, I don't think it would have worked as well. And we would have just ended up boring our readers to death because we're sitting there essentially telling them what to think about politics.
To me, when Alan Moore, some other writer that would have a take politically on, some of those, now some really like that intellectualism within their comics. I'm one of those that I kind of like it simpler than that. Now I don't want to I want a story with my biff bang pow,
Right.
Mix them up scenes.
Sure.
That's
what makes comics fun.
Comics made me a reader. I can still remember that it was Aztec Ace #1 from Eclipse Comics in 1983. Now, it may not have been issue 1. I can't remember, but somewhere in there, they used the word doppelganger. And I had never, and it was the same way with other words. And that was fairly late. I mean, I was like a junior in high school and never heard the term doppelganger. But, I'd read it in a comic and go, oh, doppelganger, and then look it up and, oh, that's what a doppelganger. Oh, okay. All right.
Right. Comics so much too, man. You have no idea.
It seems like when you learn a word, then you see it all over the place for a while,
I want to respond to you guys because I did learn something from that experience. But let me get everybody in the super chat and the chats first. Matt said he's working. Oh, now he's doing the prep work for a book. Good. Can't wait to see it, Matt. I love the work you produce on Twitter. Marco says, per our discussion about Alan Moore, Google Alan Moore's Godzilla or Alan Moore Godzilla.
Nice. See, Marco's got us. Nice.
Seth says, we need a Sears catalog of comics. I want comic drawn models, damn it. I mean, we had that in the 90s, Seth. We had the bathing suit issues. Omerglitch says he shared it on X. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your help. Matt says it ain't real unless it's inked. Yes, sir. Jason says sensational She-Hulk with some good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I was more of Savage She-Hulk when she first came out. The first 25 issues. First done by John Buscema, and yeah, I know it was it's a totally different book than John Byrne's book, Sensational Hulk. Right. I appreciate both for what they were, but I almost, when they put her into a suit, she loses that uniqueness. Now, she was a takeoff of Incredible Hulk. And I probably hold an unpopular view because people like the sexy, kind of cutesy She-Hulk. Didn't like her in the Fantastic Four per se, because once you put her in a costume, she's just another hero that's green. And I like the off the chain Incredible Hulk. I don't like the intellectual Hulk or Joe Fixit Hulk or whatever per se. I always enjoyed the destructive Hulk smash.
The essence,
Hulk, right? He was off the chain, and it was the same thing with She-Hulk. And I think she suffered in that first series, her less because they did bring in some established villains. But it seems like when they do Luke Cage or they do some solo hero for a while, or even at DC like Firestorm, although I've got to say it worked out pretty good for him, had a couple good villains coming out of that. But they create these new characters, but most of them don't fly. Hey, Luke.
And Team Irish, by the way, we haven't seen him, so welcome, sir. Thank you for visiting.
So when I got into comics,
Luke.
It was I was 15 in high school, and I was kind of late to the game.
Yeah.
You know, I had seen and had like a Hulk t-shirt when I was a kid or a Spider-Man t-shirt, and of course I watched, you know, the cartoons and stuff, but I didn't
Right.
buy comic books. I didn't even know where there was a comic book store when I was a kid, even though I lived in Orange County and I'm sure there was plenty.
My first wife was grew up in Orange County. She was a dancer at Knott's Berry Farm.
Oh, nice. Nice. I'm right down the street from Knott's Berry Farm. Literally. Like, yeah, like 2 miles, maybe 3. So I got interested in comics really late. And the comic books I was interested in were adult comics. They were more like Grips by Silver Wolf Comics, which I believe we've talked about before.
We got to talk about that sometime because you know Silver Wolf, you know Greater Mercury.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I remember
you got some books I don't have. Son of a biscuit eater.
By the way, Crager, Team Irish says, thanks, man. Crager's my brother from another mother, wanted to come and support.
I've been briefly on a panel with Joe Vigil, but I haven't met Tim. It was at Christmas time. He was with the family in the other room when I was on the panel with Joe. But
oh, nice.
Yeah, I've got a couple originals that I've had just a few years actually, and it's amazing how Tim's artwork is just really grown. I mean, he's really become a stellar, talent. Not that he wasn't back then, but he did one for Eclipse Comics. I don't know if you know. I believe it was Tim. New York. It was sort of like dystopian. It was from Eclipse Comics.
New
York. What was it? New York.
I know what you're. I think I know what you're talking about.
It was like a 4-issue miniseries.
Yeah. And it was in color at the time, right?
Yep.
God, what was the name of that thing? I know what you're talking about.
You're aware of it, yeah.
I am aware of it. It was after Vigil had done some Badger issues. He ended up going and doing, I think it was called something Zero.
Oh yeah,
Zero,
yeah.
Zero something
Zero, yeah.
And it had a character in it that looked very much like Balfour from Faust, and he didn't do all the sexy stuff that he did in Faust and stuff like that. But I remember that book. It was Zero something, and I believe I got them all. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, Tim drew Grips better or draws Faust better.
Yeah.
And at the time, like, his love was Faust. Like, if he was going to throw something full speed into like the abyss, it was going to be Faust.
I've got like a piece of where he's got demons or like zombie type guys, barbaric, muscular type, grappling and fighting, and then I've got a werewolf piece that he did, a werewolf head, I think.
Nice. Zero Tolerance was the name of that.
Zero Tolerance, that was it. I was not even aware of that, but there was a guy that did some work for Eclipse Comics, and they were going out of business, so they paid him partially in comics. And he put them up on the eBay, and I bought almost a whole long box, and there were some titles in there that I didn't even know that Eclipse did, and that was one of them, along with they did like a true crime that had the very first issue had David Koresh and the Waco thing, and then the second issue was like a female serial killer. That was a big case, at the time.
Oh, I don't remember that one, but
yeah.
Hey, Tokume, could you look up Sexy Rexy's book, Devil Flyer, and pimp that motherfucker in our chat?
Thank you, Tokume.
Or Death Metal Hero. Please, gentlemen. I'm going to get back to drawing this. I think it's ready to start inking. So that was quite quick on my part.
I'm trying to hammer out a Minotaur here myself.
Nice. So here's the pencils for this thing.
But I rarely get a chance to talk with either of you gentlemen, so
Oh yeah.
And you're pushing my buttons with this comic thing.
I did want to go back and defend myself right quick on the subject in the beginning about Coliseum.
Okay.
I am very proud of that work.
It's good.
However, Crager's right. It was essentially a movie I was trying to shoehorn into a comic.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know of Crager now and being comfortable now after doing Meathead and being engrossed in doing a comic, I could very easily go back and make that a very good comic. And I'm not going to let Crager not do it eventually because I'm very persistent.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll pay you. That's all. That's pretty much all he has to say.
Because Crager understood it perfectly. He understood it perfectly. He just is like, this is too much. I think he couldn't see a clear image. And when I gave him Meathead, it was instant. He saw it. Right? It was easy for his brain to conjure that up.
It definitely was.
It's interesting you say Coliseum because I'm going to have a 2-page spread in the story I'm working on now for the book. That's Coliseum, where, gladiators, sort of bread and circus type thing, where people can be drawn in fighting as gladiators.
And that's cool.
And and we've seen that story a million times, right? The gladiator story. And what I was trying to do was to, like I said, he said, wrap up that story around something else to make it unique.
Right.
Where I was telling other stories within a world that would support that.
Well, when you are writing something, now I know you consciously weren't writing something for a movie, but writers do need to be told by script editors. Yeah, I mean, if there's work to be done on it, and awfully, on a first draft there is. And even if you have to go back and rewrite the whole thing, it may be an unpopular view from scratch. I mean, not everything, but a good portion of it. If it doesn't
most of the dialogue would be gone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Just gone, Rex. Like that's what I've been doing for Meathead is the opposite, where I am consciously trying to put almost no dialogue in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you talked about thumbnailing. That's the way I tell a story 9 times out of 10 is I will thumbnail it out and get the visuals on it of what I want. And you could probably look at most of my stories without any dialogue and get what's going on.
Precisely. And I figured if I've got that guy, why not take advantage of him?
That actually helps me cut down when I do add the dialogue, which is the last thing to do besides coloring, but yeah, once I get the art work back down, that's when I put the dialogue in, because I let the art suggest to me what's the best, what's going on here, beyond what I first laid down. Exactly. What did the artist bring to it? I think it's a good way to work.
And it probably is redundant after you get the art back. You know what I'm saying? Like you've written something that's been illustrated. There's no point in emphasizing it again.
Yeah.
If you can avoid it,
right? I know in the Devil Flyer story that John had put in these just thugs, but I thought, okay, but there was one scene that suggested that there was a connection there between one of the thugs and the main thug's lady. So I said, okay, I'll make them a crime family, Nice. And this will be her son, and so the artwork really suggested, which direction I should go with the dialogue.
I like that.
I think it's important to listen to your artist's voice, whoever does it,
right.
If it's not you doing it.
I mean, because in the end, and I've talked about this with Crager, writing is a wholly intellectual exercise. It's totally up in here, and it's all symbols, it's all words. There's no visuals really. I mean, yeah, you've got an imagination, but it is intellectual. And then you get that on paper, and then it goes to an artist who visualizes it, and you realize that most of what you wrote can go away.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you do need to prune it back, as much as possible. Brevity's the soul wit, as they say. And there's different ways to write. That, Will. I mean,
right. Oh yeah.
Like I've written just scripts, but I think there is some visualization going on in your brain, whether you put it down in like thumbnail form or you just put it out in words. But it's being translated you just break somehow.
It down to symbols, and that's what happens. That's what I mean about the intellectual part. If you're writing it,
yeah. I mean, it comes to different people, different ways. I find that I when I was younger, I was looking for inspiration in Eureka and wondering why where lightning very rarely struck.
Right. It does strike, like as you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to learn it's a process that action begets action. Mm-hmm. The domino effect. If it's just utter shite for the first 30, 45 minutes, and if that whole day's time that you put aside to write, draw, or whatever you do is just crap, at least you attempted something, and it may lead into some other thought, other inspiration. Right. Once you've kind of relaxed your mind, I try and get, and Crager's probably into this somewhat about meditation or whatever, just relaxing your mind and letting things come to you
naturally.
Sort of, well, I want to say naturally, but that's almost like let's see. Now we have to use language. See.
Well, no, I understand what you're saying because it's when you say relax your mind, the thing that gives most people writers anxiety is the blank page, right? Because it's never, ever, ever going to be exactly what's in your brain when you first write. However, where you relax is when you finally vomited the garbage. It's there. It's tangible now. And then you go away for a day. You have a cigar. You go for a jog. You get on with your day, whatever you're doing. Then you come back the next day, and as Cormac McCarthy says, in the editing, you find your writing, right? Then it gets good after you're editing.
Right.
Because that's where you relax, is when you're editing, because the hard part's already out of the way. The fun part can now start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you write first, fix later.
Well, I have a good example, is that when I turned in the first version of Meathead to Crager, I was still doing the Coliseum thing. Yeah. Right? It was... Yeah. You remember what I'm talking about, Crager, when you got that first one?
I do.
And do you want to tell them what you told me?
Oh, yeah. I got pretty, I read it, and it was good. And I was like, hey, man, I really like this. I go, but 6 months from now, you're going to write something that fits the beginning of this better. And I don't want you to, get upset about the fact that you're going to have to rewrite this later. I go, but know that it's coming and that you're going to have to resign yourself to it. And he kind of got a little inverted with his thought and went, oh man, this is what I'm doing. And it's just sucks. And I'm all, no, it doesn't suck. It's not what it's supposed to be, and I already know that because I've done this before. And I go, and you're doing the same mistake I did the first time around too. And he went, and then I gave him 6 months, and he came back with awesome. He knew exactly what he had to do. He found his way through, but he needed the time to find it.
Yeah.
Right. And everything that he did after that. Like he even took he redid it in a way that reduced what he had given me before to like a panel.
Yeah.
Instead of like 12 pages.
Yeah. I mean, there was a 12-page dialogue scene in there for a minute. That was just this insane 12 pages of an opening scene. And it starts with dialogue and all this exposition. That scene is now 2 pages, and it's happened after a major action scene. So what I did was go in and I managed to introduce all the major characters in the first 12 pages.
Yep.
As opposed to just 2 characters.
And it's great. Like it works so much better. It puts us in the middle of everything. It moves the story forward. But when I told him, in the beginning, he was pretty upset at the idea of, well, what do you mean you were going to have to do this? And I was like, you're not going to be satisfied 6 months from now. And I know it's going to change. And don't be upset that it is. And then he brought me, the next thing. And I said, okay, don't pigeonhole yourself like how I pigeonholed myself when I did Hammer. And he figured that out. And it came out really good. It's really solid. I'm super excited about it because it is so good. It's super good.
That one, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Rex, is that the first time around, even though I was all butthurt about, not butthurt, but just down on myself about it, it didn't feel good. It was like, I finally got it out. That's the best I could do, Crager. Why don't you like it, even though it doesn't feel good? I just wanted it to be done.
But, I know. Some projects are like that.
Then I redid it, and that felt good. That one felt good. Like you know what I'm talking about, Craig? Where you get that stage, or Rex, where you're at the stage where you're like, I feel good about that.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about it. I don't feel like it's bad. I feel it's solid.
Right.
That's right. So, but I gave him the time to fail. That's the thing, and it's not like he's failing.
That's the experience. Yeah. You're tweaking it. You're making it better.
Exactly.
I mean, it's about pacing, or you have to have a clear cut of what you want, and you got to be able to throw it away. And that's very hard to learn. That
I did.
With some of it, if it's too precious, it may be too precious to keep. And
Yep.
That doesn't make it bad. It just makes it, you need to go back to the drawing board and work on it a little bit longer. And
it's inappropriate, Rex.
I get that. I get what you're saying, Will. I just want it done.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But you want to also sleep good at night, right? That you killed that, you left it on the field.
Yeah. You want to be proud of it when you're done and say, this is, for where I'm at right now, this is the best I can do.
Right. And that's
and hope that it holds up 5 years, 10 years from now. Right.
Right.
When you go back and look at it and go, hey, I see a thing here and maybe a thing there I could have done, if I worked on it now and not do it differently. That happens with artists all the time. They're all the time leveling up if they continue with their craft. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And most importantly, that the people in the chat who buy it, that they're happy.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of them, let's have a look at who's around.
See what they're saying.
Matt said, I wrote a script once about a supercomputer that tried an energy drink for the first time and loses its mind and then realized it was funny, but it wasn't visual. And that's hard balance to find. Right. That sounds definitely like something that would be better suited for pros.
Right.
And because you could do a whole lot with that, because that's a machine thinking about what it's like to drink an energy drink, and how do you visualize that, right?
Yeah,
that's a difficult concept.
He says, editing's key. You
Indeed.
flashed that up there. Yeah, but it's hard to edit shit.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, if it's shit, it's shit, right? If it's shit, it's shit. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bad ideas, and like Mike Barron's told me more than once, 90% of what you read is shit.
That's
You
true.
have to read. You have to read a lot of shit to know what's shit and what's good.
Yeah.
Yep. It's true. It is very true. So
I told this to Crager too, that what's helped me a lot as a prose writer, not necessarily a comic writer, but a prose writer, is college education. And what I mean by that is, in college, in university, you're forced to write a lot. Now, whatever your opinions of the university system, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the grind that you're basically writing day in and day out, and it has to be systematic. There's strict standards, and you learn to write. You just because you have to do it to get the grade, and to get a good grade, you have to write well, and you have to write exactly how they want you to.
Yep.
There's no preferences. I can't just be flowery, otherwise, I'm not going to fit within 1,500 words.
Right.
I have to be concise. So I'd say that's come in handy as a prose writer, but also it's helped me think about things to get out of my own precious boy sensibilities, like we were just talking about, and just do the work, how it has to be done.
Yeah, I've learned that I try to get things done quickly or learn how to do things quickly so that when I screw up, I can quickly fix it by redoing it. And the same thing goes with like writing something for me or drawing something. The faster I screw up, the quicker it's going to be for me to fix it in the long run. And I know that sounds counterintuitive and weird, but it's like if it takes me half an hour to do a piece and I'm not in love with it, it only takes me another half an hour to do another piece.
Find your happy place.
Omer Glitch says, I went to college twice. Well, going to pick up your date for the, does not count, Omer.
Also, while you're referring to the chat, I want to do some self-aggrandizement. Thank you, Luke. The new opening to Meathead is on point and will definitely set the tone for the rest of the book because he has read a lot of it, even the crappy version he read. Nice. And he even said the same thing. I think you need to prune this a little, Will.
Yep. See, there you go. I was right.
Have you written any short stories? I found, once I had the Devil Flyer story, and it's like, you know what? I need more. I need to introduce more characters for what I want to do. I don't want it just to be about a singular character. Never did. But I had that pretty much finished. So I started doing the backup stories, some like my text story. Hockey did the artwork for a text story, back in the Golden Age and Silver Age. That was a more normal thing to see, was text stories where you had one or two illustrations and the rest was just text. And it was the thoughts of a dying man before he died, and a bed scene, a deathbed scene. And there's other stories, but I had more fun writing those 2 to 5 page stories, or 9 page stories, whatever, fitting it in that more constrained space than I did a lengthier, the lengthier stories.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Rex, because I just completed a short story for an upcoming short story collection by a gentleman named Quiet Red Media.
Well, good for you.
It's going to be in a collection of shorts with Narwhal, Clint Stoker, myself, Ali Senguis, and I cannot remember who else is in there, but there's quite a few people in there that we know. It's called Black Rose Ballads, I believe. And Crager did my my plate, the illustration that accompanies my story and Narwhal's.
Yep. I turned
I
those
think with one or two good illustrations, depending on the length of it, that can really set the reader's mind. Okay, I have a basis to jump off here. It's not just all due to the words that I'm reading. You have some kind of visual reference, maybe to show the main characters.
I wish I could show it, but it's not my property.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people though, since I've been talking writing with people, they say, "Man, I have a trouble with short stories," and I'm like, "Really? I really like short stories."
They're really an art, though, Rex.
Yeah,
very much an art. But what helped me with short stories is, and or what I believe should be taught in film schools, if you're going to make a short, are the original Tales from the Crypt episodes and the EC Comics stuff in general, because they're perfect shorts. Because if you look back at some of those HBO Tales from the Crypt episodes, they're only 20 minutes long, 25 minutes long. They're short.
Yeah.
But there's not an inch of fat on them.
Yeah.
They were good. I remember them.
You know, I think people, the consumer appreciates that when you don't waste their time with just filler.
Especially if it's effective.
Yeah, if it's effective to the point, depending on what it is. I mean, I find the short stories, you can. I think I came up with a good formula to be able to tell any kind of genre story I want within my universe, and that's kind of what Devil Flyer is all about. Is just being able to tell any type of story that I want, and what is a plausible setup for making that happen. I can do a horror story, I can do a noir story, I can do a back in time type story, I can do a modern story, or something in the future.
And you can get in and get out, because it's not like a major project like a novel, right? You could write a short story and a beefy short story within a week.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, if you're accomplished writer, it's going to take J.Crager longer to illustrate it the way you want it than it is for you to write it.
I think the one I just did took me, with editing, writing, I mean, it was quite long. It was like 22 pages. I think it took me 17 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely going to take me at least 17 or more days. So, yeah.
But I am neglecting our friends in the chat. Let's see what everybody's saying. And you're right. You're right, Luke. You have to be willing to kill your darlings, indeed. And you realize that you didn't need those darlings once you kill them.
That's right.
That's looking great, J.Crager. That's a good-looking character.
Mr. Thanks, Irish. Bud. Always so amazed at watching talented artists work. Make it look easy.
I appreciate it, guys. It's really fairly easy characters, so that makes me very happy.
And
well, I know Luke is more widely read than I am. I've read primarily comic books, but now there's been some other things that I've read, some autobiographies and things and I know I don't read enough now, but for comic book work, I think I've read enough comic books and know what type of stories I want to tell that I can do it confidently. Now, if we're doing something like Dune or War and Peace,
exactly.
That might be a little different.
My cat is in the house right now. Let's get off that. Get off that.
By the way, Matt, he's absolutely right. I think the best thing about college is writing and turning it over to class to evaluate it. Yeah, because in college, it's all about it's a very specific way they want you to write and convey the information, because they don't have time to spend with your work. They've usually got a teacher's aide doing it. It's like one of 300 students, so it's good training. So yeah, that's right. Writing within certain constraints from Luke forces you to get creative with your problem solving. Indeed, and that's actually fun. Right. I enjoy that. I am uncomfortable by myself, so working for someone else is my ideal situation.
Look to other medium. I mean, I look and I break down through audio commentaries and things like that, TV shows, movies.
Same with me.
How it was made. I mean, you can apply what Luke's saying there to how they made the original Star Trek. The designers were going to different sets, borrowing things. They were going looking in the dumpster to see what was thrown away and what they could use and repurpose. I mean, you have to get creative when you don't have a big budget. I think that makes you more creative, actually. You know, when you don't, when everything's just like, I think that's the problem with some of these big budget movies and shows and stuff. They've actually got it too easy.
Or when something looks like crap,
Yeah.
and you've got to, get around it, like the Jaws, the shark from Jaws, or the Alien and Alien. I mean, it didn't look like crap standing there in a museum, but it looked like crap with a guy, a tall Nigerian dude with blue sneakers running around,
Right.
Well, something that might look good in the moment, 20 years later, it looks like crap. It's been dated.
Right.
The shark looks a little dated nowadays,
but anything without the shark in it is effective.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one film that came out in the last 20 years I think is used a lot of old tactics for dread, and I think you'll probably agree with me. Was I Am Legend, the Will Smith film?
Yeah.
Like the first half of that film is extremely effective.
I think a little bit of practical with digital is fine. I think that's the best of both worlds. I think you get a more realistic type thing with practical. I think a lot of it comes down to lighting.
Look at that.
How is a scene lit? How is same thing with comics? How is it lit?
Huh.
That is lit.
I think it needs some spatter.
It does need. Yeah.
I Am Legend actually fulfills that requirement you just laid down, Rex. Like, for example, I don't know. Have you seen the film?
I have. Yeah, it's been a little while.
I think you'll know what I'm talking about, though. There's a scene where he loses his dog in a dark building.
Mm-hmm.
Remember? And he has to go in and retrieve his dog, and it's completely dark, and it's the whole scene is the camera over Will's shoulder, following him, and him, and it's completely black all around him. And the film has been so effective up to that point in building up the silence, and that there's this danger at night and in dark places, that you are just on pins and needles that light's going to hit something. It's going to shine on something that you don't want to see. And you're kind of, remember that old feeling in a theater when you were really scared, where you were tense, you were afraid they're going to show you something that was going to hit you.
Yeah.
And you were doing your best to brace for it. You don't get that feeling anymore. It's not they're not good at that anymore.
It's a music buildup,
or silence, like
or
I
it
Am
can
Legend.
be silence. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I forgot how effective that movie is.
Again, though, lighting. Like you said, what is the most scariest thing? I would argue it's the unknown, not knowing, is what really scares people.
And there was a shot in there where he hears something in the dark, that the screen goes black, and it's just this loud noise of something in the dark, being attacked, and the loudness of those monsters. And he's covering up the flashlight, remember, with his hand to kind of hide his position.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there just because you don't know. They could be on top of him. He doesn't know. And it's very tense because he's just trying to find his way through to find the dog.
It's got that player, that Doom, going from room to room feel, with the gun and you're right over his shoulder, like you say, and psychological tension, right?
Yeah, and then the soundtrack is played up when he's stepping over like debris on the floor and making noise.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not that I haven't seen a movie really do that since that has been as effective.
Yeah, when's the last time you went to a theater, much less went to a theater and people jumped, or they ooh or ah? I had totally forgotten until I saw a documentary on Star Wars, and what they did in the documentaries, what actually happened when I watched the film. When the Millennium Falcon streaked off finally hit hyperspace and streaked off, everybody went, ooh, because that had never been seen before. If you do it today, we've seen it a million times,
Exactly.
But then it was brand new and everybody was like, whoa, that was cool.
There's actually some scares that still kind of get you. Like, I think one that everyone likes to bring up is The Exorcist Part 3. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
With the white lady?
walks across the background, and everybody's
Yeah.
like,
The one
"Fuck."
that still gets me and got me at age 13 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. You know, and they don't actually show you anything. It's all implied, and I think that is scarier than actually the horror movies of like 80s. Now now don't get me wrong, that's got its place, and it can be effective, but you're kind of defining it, and you're kind of, you know, when you show the penetration of the knife, when you see Jason or the Halloween movies or Freddy movies, you know, of the 80s, it's not the same as that sort of hyper realism that you got in that grunge. It was almost like Grindhouse look, you know, made on a very low budget, you know,
It's funny you
in a
bring
few
up.
days.
I watched Texas about a month ago, and there's no on-screen violence.
Yeah,
Like when Franklin gets killed, you know, the wheelchair brother. Like it's all played on Leatherface, kind of making these gestures with the chainsaw, and you know he's eviscerating Franklin, but you don't really see it.
You don't see it. It's off screen, right? You don't see the sledgehammer hit the guy's hammer. Yeah, he hit the forehead. You don't see the
like this,
meat hook penetrate the woman's back. You never see that, but people swear after seeing that movie for the first time that they saw that. No, your mind filled in the gap. It was, you know, scary stuff.
The end is pretty violent when he chases her onto the road and she's being slashed with the razor blade,
all covered in blood, and he's just like, you can see the sexual thing with it too, with what he's doing with this chainsaw. I always thought there was a sexual component to that with that character.
Oh, there's
in another film that I've talked with Crager extensively about that does this so well, because everybody who thinks have seen this film thinks they saw the most violent, vile film, but there's zero violence until the last minute, and that's Seven. David Fincher's Seven. Think about that film. Everybody thinks it's like the most violent movie they've ever seen.
Jackson.
But there's nobody gets killed on screen until the last minute of the film.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like all the murders are played in reverse. It's discovering what happened and alluding to what happened. And the alluding.
One movie I never hear anybody that made an impact on me, Memento.
Oh, that was
Remember
good.
Memento? Where
What are you referring to in Memento? What do you mean?
Well, I mean,
it made an impact.
Yeah.
Just
the whole film.
Yeah, the whole film, just where, you know, he forgets, and it's built on that very simple premise, and concurrent runs throughout the movie. It's just, you know, I just thought it was an excellent movie at the time.
Here, we're gonna
see what Crager has done for Hal Deer.
Let's see. Let's make this go. Hold on.
Solo layout. Splatter on.
Yeah, I brought the splatter on.
Yeah,
and
I like how you got kind of a little transparency in his midsection.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I put some Zipatone on there.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah. It's just Zipatone.
Yeah, to give it that sort of what is it? Kind of got like a gelatinous sort of look.
Yeah. I want to put.
Says I did that. That was an amazing movie. Still is. Hey, team.
I think this
says Jason.
What I like about Memento is that it begins where you're on the same page as Leonard, where you have this problem because the movie is played out as though you're forgetting like him. But because we're normal, the audience, our brains function normally. As the film goes on, we start to maintain the context of it while he's forgetting, and we start to learn more than him.
Yeah,
because he knows more than us in the beginning, or we know the same as him.
Right.
And then obviously we start to put it together in a context, you know, and understand what the movie is, you know, and what the narrative is. But Leonard is just stuck from that first moment.
Yes. Oh. What else am I doing?
That's true. It was hot and the food was rotting and smelling, and it was.
Yeah, that was an awful production. It was god awful.
But effective. I mean, you know, when he's coming up to that metal door And then just as a kid, that thing's just abruptly sliding, and just the noise of it sliding, you're building up to something. And then you see his reaction after being hit. Yeah, you see a movement, but you never see it actually hitting his head. You just see him on the ground. And to me, I just remember the nerve jerking, and then just the cold callus, bending down and just hitting him again to stiffen out the body. And, it's just, wow. It's very Slaughterhouse,
Speaking of which, your mind will always make the monster violence infinitely more scary than any special effect. Indeed, Luke. And also, why don't you say penetrate again, according to Jason Rex?
I didn't think I said it the same time. That's what I mean the first time, but penetrate. Penetration. Now you can sleep tonight, Jason.
Penetration.
Indeed, Ed. He was based on Ed Gein. He is that's why they kind of loosely said it was based on a true story. There obviously was borrowed. It wasn't 1-for-1.
Well, I only live about 9 hours from Texarkana, so it's like that always unnerved me, being that close to. And I know it was set in the past, but and I know I didn't see it originally when it came out in 72, but I saw it like in 1978. I was like 13 years old, because I know that because I saw Star Wars in 77 when I was 12. So about 13 we snuck in there and watched that, and it's like, oh, I regretted it. But I mean, it really does drive home effective. I mean, Jim Aparo did that in Adventure Comics with the Spectre. He would show the violence off screen, the judgment of the Spectre against the bad guy, where I know on one scene he made these calibers real big, and then he just kind of skewers the guy, but all you see is sort of the guy's reaction and it going through him, silhouette. And very effective, though. I don't think that you have to show blood and gore. There's a lot of people that they want to do blood and gore, and I don't think it sells it as a.
Well, that became a star for a minute because of the effects guys being rock stars in the late 70s and 80s, where guys like Tom Savini, they were the stars, right? They were doing these crazy effects.
Well, think about the bar scene. That was bloody. Okay, in Star Wars, he cut the arm off. You see the blood. You see the arm.
It's still there,
but you didn't see him cut it off. You heard.
Did they take that out of the movie?
They probably edited it out of the movie. I know there was an earlier take of that, but I mean, you did in the finished product. You didn't see him.
No, I mean in the modern iterations. You know how many iterations there's been of Star Wars. Do they still have that pan up where you see the blood?
I mean, if you're going to show everything, which I don't think you have to, it takes up more film. Does it advance the story like Crager was saying? I think you can cut to the chase and go, okay, severed arm, blood on the ground. Your mind can fill in the gap. Let's move on.
Right.
I wanted it 5 systems.
Now, if you really want to show that, okay. Like if you want a torture scene where the guy's eyes being taken out or something, then focus on that if that's important to the story.
They took out the blood, he says. Omer Glitch says they took the blood out.
Took out the blood. No.
Oh yeah, that dinner scene, man. That was when they shot that dinner scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre Tokyo, it was like a 40-hour shoot. Like not a 40-hour, excuse me. It was like a 24-hour shoot. It was insane.
In hot,
it was like the last day of shooting.
Yeah. And who banked that? The mafioso.
After the fact, they bought the film.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why a lot of the actors sued. Like I think two of them sued, or the production designer sued because they didn't get a penny out of it because they got points, but it was points in a company that had a piece of it that went to the mob.
They had a small convention around here a few months ago, and the actor that played Grandpa is still alive, and he
was a young guy. I think he was like 19.
Yeah,
at the time.
yeah, he was a young guy back then. Yeah,
He's like permanently scarred from the shit they put on him.
is he
you
really?
want to get
Wow, I
That's what he
didn't know
said.
that. Yeah.
Mm.
They had him, looking pretty, like an old man, for sure.
Says that it was awful, but the setting made the actors unsettled, which made the film real. It made the viewer feel like they were there. And also, who the fuck wanted to go for a nice afternoon drive in that heat in that van?
Yeah.
Like, Franklin was right, even though he's annoying. Like, who the hell wants to be in that van with no air conditioning?
Well, I mean, there were sexual component, we mentioned with Leatherface, but there was also a sexual component with Grandpa sucking on her finger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grandpa.
And then later on, they started to lean into the cross-dresser thing.
My grandpa.
You remember where they started to dress him up like put wigs on Leatherface and make him look,
man, that movie was ahead of its time in freakiness in a way,
Grandpa. Okay, I'm officially done, fuckers.
Boom.
No, I see one thing.
Hold on.
Did you sign it?
I did.
Okay.
So I'm gonna solo lay out this bastard.
Oh wow!
Look at that! Holy moly, man!
I think that's a little better.
See what you get, people, when you watch our show. Look what you have a chance to win. So like, subscribe, share, and tune in and suggest.
Yeah, we're the only show that weekly gives away art, and when we hit 150 subscribers, I'm going to start giving away actual slabbed Rob Liefeld, New Mutants 98, and 150 subscribers. That's what we need.
You're very welcome, Haldir.
Now, is that supposed to be Cable's first appearance?
It's Shatterstar's first appearance.
Oh, Shatterstar.
Fucking rad, man.
That's right.
I love the double blade on Shatterstar.
Team Iris says.
Yeah.
Looks great, Jason says.
Thank you all. I really appreciate it.
For not sucking up, Omer Glitch. That sucks, Crager. Send me the one and make a new one. LOL. JK.
Sorry, man. So if you Ameriglitch, go to X, and next week make sure that you sign up on my page, and when I put up the thread, all you have to do is make a suggestion.
And then present yourself.
Like you did tonight. And if we choose you, we'll hook you up.
He could say draw Devil Flyer?
Yeah.
You could. You seriously could do that. Yeah.
Last week somebody was suggesting their characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And next week, I believe, is our good friend Luke, right? Or is it who is next week? I'm sorry, is it Luke?
I think it's Luke. I have to check again.
No, it's actually no, it's not Luke. Luke is after that. It's Joe Sonatog next week.
Sonatog.
Joe. Okay.
Yeah.
He was streaming earlier tonight.
Yes, contact Jason on Twitter, Haldir, with your address.
Please. Yeah.
You can send nudes my way. I keep them in my special file. And,
well, not. I'm just curious, and you probably told me, Jay. I can't remember, but why wasn't I on last week? Did we double book?
I double booked accidentally.
Okay. I thought that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm the one who double. Like I had booked you, and then he had booked Jason, and it was easier to move you than it was Jason that day. Yeah, so I asked you if that was okay.
I was kicking Jason's ass at the time. Yeah. Sorry, Rex.
So
I mean, that's fine. It's just I was a little bit anxious about it because the further I get into the month, like I said, we had our first meeting tonight, and I was like, here pretty soon I won't be able to do time slots like this. I'll be working.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you being able to make it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If at some point I may do like individual shows like during the day when Will's unavailable, but they'll mostly just be me drawing and not paying attention to the chat and essentially just drawing. And it might even be me quietly drawing. So I can invite other people to come on, and
Awesome.
they could chat and talk in the background, or
Yeah,
ask me
daytime's not a
questions.
problem for me most of the time, you know.
Okay, cool. Yeah, man. You when you want to be on my show, I know how persistent you are. Or if you want me on a show, I know how persistent you are, Rex. And
Well,
you'll
I mean, you know, you have to do follow up with people, you know, otherwise, I mean, it took me a year to get Don Charlie's London, you know, and
Oh,
a good
really?
excuse. It's like, could you come on the 16th? It's Charlie Chaplin's birthday. And she came on, you know, but I've been
Nice.
after her for like a year.
Have
So,
you?
yeah, there's
Nice.
still people that I'm still trying to get on. You know, they're like, okay, sure, we could set that up, and then you don't hear from them, and then you get back, oh yeah, we could do that, and then you don't hear from them, and it's like, wow, man, you
Yeah,
know.
Rex would send me notes in all caps. Hey, when are you gonna come hang
Well, I
out?
do that with everybody. That's
And I'm
just the way
like,
I speak.
and at first, so I didn't know Rex, so it was
Yeah.
just kind of a cold thing, like, hey, when are we gonna hang out? And I was like, soon. And all I'm thinking to myself is like, who the fuck are you? and then I was just like, oh, I'm really busy. And I think I was at the time. Like I
Oh
was,
yeah, I know you
and
are. Yeah.
and then I had started like seeing you in other places, and then you were like, when are you gonna come play with us? I was like, soon. And then eventually he caught me on a day I was able to do it. And I was able to come in and hang out and play with Rex.
It was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
had a good time.
we're
So
celebrating Shadowhawk, who's a big supporter of everybody.
good. I like that. I like it when everybody supports everybody.
Luke said you're an old man shouting at the internet, Rex.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I actually went on in somebody's chat, and they were like, "Oh, now play nice. Don't be yelling."
No, I think you did good. I think you did just fine. Did we get Rex's campaign up in the chat? So the 27 people who are watching.
Yeah, could you drop that again?
Yeah, please.
You know, for the replay crowd at least.
Yeah, it gets people to look at stuff, and we want other people to support. So the reason why we're here is to draw comics. We're not here to cause problems or be weird or create drama. That is not what we do here. So it's all about drawing comics all the time.
That's right. You know, it's like somebody told me recently, if we can't, you know, I thank them for backing my book, and they said, you know, absolutely, if we can't support each other, why are we here? You know.
Exactly.
And I said, yeah, keep that $100,000 that's mythically supposed to be passed around to everybody, right? Keep that going.
Keep it moving.
Thank you.
Keep it moving, right? I'm still waiting on the 100,000.
There it is,
you know, so that I can pass it on to somebody. But you know,
thank you so much, Death Metal Hero Luke.
Thank you, Luke.
We draw comics because they're effing awesome.
Yeah, because they're fun, man. I'm not a big fan of the whole way that this small niche of comics creators have been doing things, and I don't feel it's necessary. We can always learn things. If anybody has questions, I answer questions, and you know, I don't want it filled with drama. It's not going to be fun if it is, and if you know, if you find that you're laughing at other people's expense, you're probably shouldn't be. So
I continue to do so. It's part of my daily routine.
I'm a drama queen.
Well, you know, I will say this: there are many ways to entertain.
Exactly.
There are.
I'll take my locale milking wherever I can find them.
I wish more channels were more creative with it. Now you probably people that come on and look at my stuff, they probably like, I wish it was more entertaining. But you know, all I can say is I don't do everything right because I'm not a boomer, but I'm almost a boomer. You know, and when it comes to technology, and I would rather focus on art, and always have in my comics and things like that, and collecting.
Yeah, it's actually funner. You get to experience like other people's life being funner.
Hey, guy from Red Bank, thank you for coming
Hey,
in
guy
to
from
watch.
Red Bank.
Appreciate
Jason says I put Rex on when I need a nap.
Speaking of
Nice.
something cool and being creative, I was cleaning out the garage today. A long neglected task. You know when you go, us artist types, when we go through old boxes, you find cool stuff.
Yes.
I found this, in a box. The art of Bob Peak.
Apocalypse Now.
You bastard. I don't
Isn't
even
that-
own that.
Isn't
That's
that a nice one?
amazing. That's amazing. Bob Peak is
And
awesome.
I got this at his exhibit in Glendale, where they had a exhibit of his paintings and Drew Struzan's original paintings.
Oh, nice.
And one
Bob
thing
Peak.
we talk about, Crager and I, about Bob Peak is his color theory.
Yep.
And one in particular piece in here that I think we all recognize.
There's a lot of colorists that need to learn color theory, I think.
I agree.
In comics, they really do.
I agree.
And they find it. But
Crager, while he's looking for that, how's your sculpting coming? You doing any of that?
I haven't been sculpting recently. The last thing I sculpted, so I'm working
this
on.
We all know that one.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
Both those. Yeah.
So good. So good.
Look how beautiful that color is.
Up a little. Up a little.
Taste the rainbow.
It's so beautiful. I love that stuff, man. Yeah, so sculpting, me and Joe Benitez are doing some toys together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working on some sculptures with him via ZBrush. And then currently my buddy Marco, my art assistant Marco, and co-writer of Hammer, he wanted to take up sculpting. So he came by my house, and since I haven't been sculpting recently, I have 10 years worth of clay and armature wires and everything if he wanted to physically sculpt something. So I just gave him a pile of bunches of different types of clay, armature wires, tools, bases, just everything he would need to actually like sculpt in whatever medium he wanted to sculpt in. And so yeah, I've been doing my part, at least by helping my friends with it, since I haven't been sculpting recently. So it's been a couple months.
I like to sculpt, but it's do you find it hard to go from one to the other?
No. I've done it long enough that I don't have any problem going back and forth. When it comes to physical sculpting, I have a problem when I have to go into ZBrush, and I usually have to like update all the protocols in my brain. So I'll run through like a checklist of stuff just to make sure I don't screw up the thing I'm working on. There's a lot of ZBrush protocols that if you aren't being very like dialed into what you're doing, you can mess up a lot of your base mesh stuff in the beginning, and then it makes it hard in the end to essentially make it a printable piece that is hollow completely on the inside.
Yeah, you gotta have that foundation correct.
Right. So
it's like if one tile is off, it's the domino effect, right? It's just like okay, that's going to be a little off, and this a little bit off, and it's the ripple effect.
It's true, and ZBrush has a lot of protocols. It has like 40 protocols, and every once in a while, I got to refresh myself. If I take like a month or two off from it, I jump into these videos and just will watch all the protocols again just to make sure I remember. So when I go back into the program, I don't fuck anything up that
Well,
I've already been working on.
I think that's essential. I refresh myself at least once a week. I take a bath, and I want to thank you guys for allowing me, the opportunity to take a bath. Of course, I had a meeting before this too. So, but yeah, at least once a week.
At least. So
right.
what is
Yeah,
what is
you can do that when you're a bachelor.
Exactly. Omer Glitch 3D printing. Yes, I can 3D print stuff. I've 3D.
Oh man, he's Crager, when you were on, or maybe it was over on Topic List, you were talking about your father and all that early, before it was widely known you were into computers and into the software and stuff. And,
right.
That's great, man.
Super
that's
young age. Yeah. A lot.
You grew up with it. I mean, I did. You're really on the cutting edge.
Well, I was. I took after my dad passed away when I was really young. So when I was 16 years old, he passed away, and all the stuff he had been building for the last 4 years essentially fell apart because my father had passed away. So, but 2 years before that, his father had passed away, and his father owned several businesses also. So my father was juggling about 7 or 8 businesses, a couple sheet metal businesses, a couple lumber businesses, on top of having 3 computer stores at one point. And it was too large for him to handle. And inevitably, when he did pass away, which the circumstances were terrible, it was he was murdered in Anaheim in 1990, and it pretty much, everything fell into my mother's lap. All 7 of these huge corporations.
That's a lot to take care of.
They ended up, it took years to actually consolidate everything and figure it all out. And during that time, my mother was super busy. I was just 16 years old. My little brother was 12 at the time. And it was hard. And I didn't get any more new computers after that. So I took like a 20-year hiatus from working on computers and playing with computers and stuff during that time. But my foundation of Photoshop, like when I came back to it 20 years later, I hadn't lost a step. I knew exactly where everything was. It was quick. And in fact, the way it happened was I ended up becoming the art director at Avatar. And I remember William asking me, he was like, "Oh man, do you know how to use computer programs?" And I was like, "Which programs?" He goes, "Do you know how to use Photoshop and Illustrator?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Really?" And I go, "Yeah." So I come out there, I sit down. Within a couple day time period, I was already back up to speed again. And it had been 20 years, but because Photoshop is so intuitive and they're so good at that operating system and just the visual display of it, it made it really easy for me to just jump back aboard. And it was really cool, actually. So even though I had missed all those years, during those 20 years, I developed as a physical artist pretty much. Like I worked at Top Cow during that time and Avatar Press and a couple of different places, Caliber. I did that. A lot of small stuff.
When you say Caliber, you mean Caliber Press?
Caliber Press, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
They've done some. Yeah.
Back in the day before they folded.
Wow, I might even have some Caliber Press with some of your stuff in it. I don't know.
Maybe it might be possible. It was many, many years ago, and I used to. So my real name isn't Crager. My real name is Jewett. And which yesterday or a couple days ago on Joe Sontag's stream, Joe Benitez was on there, and I came in and I said, hey Joe, what's up, Benitez? And he saw me, and instead of calling me Crager, he just goes, what's up, Jewett? And he called me by my real last name.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because he has no filter on that. He knew me before my name was Crager. He's known me for 25 years. So he always knew me as Jewett. And all my friends who've known me for over 25 years just call me Jewett, which is funny because I get a lot of questions about whether I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
And I don't know any Jews that have the name Jew in their name. There is no Jewinskis or Jewbergs.
And do you know your family tree where that kind of comes from?
I do. They're German and French and English. And, you know, there's a Jewett like seal in a castle. But on my mother's side, I'm directly related to the Hatfields. So my great-great-great-great-grandfather was Devilance Hatfield.
Hatfield in the McCoys?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. So my grandfather's side of the family comes from West Virginia. My grandmother is Kentucky, but German lineage. So
yeah. That might, you know, unless your mother was really your father's bookkeeper, how did she handle all that? 7 businesses. Like you said, it took years really to figure all that stuff out and consolidate it down. How did she handle that?
She had a lot of people around her beforehand who she really trusted. So we had a really good accountant named Lou Finkelstein, which he passed away several years ago. We had a really good lawyer who had known our family for years and years and years. So he stepped in and took care of all of that type of stuff. There were a bunch of legal issues that had happened. Some of the computer stores some of the employees stole some things from the computer store after my father had passed. And essentially we were gone after by a large corporation, a large computer entity. And I don't remember which one it was. But I remember them keeping them in court for years and years and years and years and years, just because they were trying to prove that my father had stolen these computers from them, but my father was dead and the computers had disappeared after his death.
Oh, God.
And the only thing could have happened was that some of the employees decided to grab a bunch of that stuff. So the company tried to sue us or sue my father's corporation. And we spent years in litigation with them to the point of that they gave up. So at some point and paid off all the lawyers' fees because they couldn't prove what had happened.
Yeah.
But we had good lawyers. We had good things that set up. My mom did the best that she could raising 2 boys that were very much like her husband.
Yeah.
And, you know, we did the best we could. So,
well, you know, raising 2 boys is a lot different than raising 2 girls.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Were you, quote, hyperactive?
She would have said we were, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a little bit. We were a little hyperactive. So
I'm still hyperactive.
we acted out quite a bit growing up. Of course.
I bet you did. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what, were you out in California at the time? That's what you do out in California.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do in California.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a lot of friends and we caused a lot of trouble. And, you know, I grew up like middle class neighborhood, just and inner white trash.
Yeah. How did you and Will kind of get together?
Well, Fraga is our mutual friend, but he's known Fraga since he was a kid. And somewhere down the line, Will had reached out to me, I think after he'd purchased Hammer, and asked me if there was some original pages for it. I believe is how that happened, right, Will?
Yeah, and I think you were on Frega streams a lot, and I was working with Frega on his streams. So
you probably were doing couch doodles, right? Back then.
Yeah, it was way back then.
Yeah. I did couch doodles, and then I of course went up against Lepresti and Irene for the belt 1 year. So I got all the way to the finals on that.
Yeah, I watched some of that. Yeah, that's a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
that was a long time ago.
Cragtober.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I've known Fraga since his extreme days.
Yeah, I've known Frega 30 years now.
Yeah, I met him through Joe Weems, the inker, who worked at Top Cow and Marvel and DC, all those places. And me and Weems have known each other since we were 18 or 19 years old. So we would run into each other at little comic book shows, and we were super impressed with each other's work. Like, I would see his work, like he did a little magazine and he printed a bunch of them up and threw them into all the local comic shops around Orange County. So I just happened to love comics when I was, 17, 18, 19 years old. So I would go into the comic shop. Whatever was free was free. I'd take that thing home. And that's how I discovered Joe Weems, was in this little free magazine that I saw. And then I end up at some show, like a Sequoia show, and Weems actually has a table there. And I remember going up to him, and I thought I was big shit, and could draw, which at the time I could draw pretty well for a 18 or 19-year-old. And I just remember going up to him, realizing who he was, and I just said, "Dude, you suck." And he went, "Fuck you, man." He goes, what can you do? And I threw my portfolio at him, and he looked at it, and he was like, "Oh man, some of these are good." He goes, "Can I ink this?" And I went, "Yeah." He goes, "We'll trade pieces." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You suck." I was like, "Cool, we're buddies now." So, and then when his first gig came about, his first comic gig, was for Harris Comics on Vengeance of Vampirella. And, yeah, back in the day, like when Ethan Van Sciver used to work there, and I he ended up calling me out of nowhere and saying, "Hey, this is my first book. It's my first deadline. I'm going to blow this fucking deadline. I need help. Can you come by and help me? I don't know any other inkers, and you're one of the best artists I know." So I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll come over." So I came over and I just spotted blacks on pages for him to kind of help him get through faster. And that was it. I sat there all night just filling in little black spaces with like a brush. That's all I did. And we ended up becoming fast friends. And then a couple years after that is when Marco became his ink assistant. And that's when I ended up meeting Marco. So it was cool.
Your job.
What do you think about? What do you think about? While I got you two here, and I know I'm not the host.
That's okay. Go ahead.
But what do you think about numbering? Or should we do titles like Blood Honey, Wreck Planet for each individual books? Because we're not on a monthly grind. We're crowdfunding. Should we maybe just put the numbering in the indica, maybe, if we want to number it? Does that really help? My question is, well, I don't know. Hammer 3. I missed 1 and 2, and yeah, they got a catch up tier, but I mean, does that really help sell it once you get to issue 6 or 7?
No.
Or does it hurt it?
I mean, it might, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't it? I mean, if you look at one and go, well, I missed 8 issues already.
That the thing is that, with crowdfunding, that could limit you like that. But if you, let's say we have issue 2 of, Jawbone Death coming up in 2 months, right? So in 2 months, there are going to be 200 people that most likely want the second issue. If we get any extra people who have never read it before, and they want the first issue, we should, of course, print some of the first issues so that we have issues 1 and 2 to sell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now,
Second
if you
print.
can do that, if you can end up having, by the time you're at 6, you can go, hey, here's a bundle pack of 1 through 6 of this book. That's great. And thank God, like 6 is an achievement in the crowdfunding space.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. At that point, you can put it into a trade paperback.
And you will.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing that I'm doing with Hammer. Like Hammer, I could see myself doing it issue by issue by issue, but the crowdfunding aspect of it kind of gets in the way for me. I know I can do it faster than giving you 3 issues a year. I can give you the first volume, the first 5 issues in a year, but I have to sit down and do all 5 issues at once and then do it as a single volume and then tell you these are 5 issues in one. Boom, here you go. And that seems to work pretty good too. I think people want to not have to, by the time you've gotten to 6, go search out 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So whatever you can do to try to limit that, do that. So if you can get 4 issues out or 3 issues out, or your first storyline is 2 issues, put those 2 issues together, put a new cover on it, crowdfund that. And then hopefully new people will pick it up.
And I'm just doing 3 of Meathead, and purely for economic reasons, and it works better parceled out like that with story.
We've seen that with some books, right? I mean, they'll do, especially with the Image stuff. I think they did like 4 issues, and then they'll do another 4 issue limited series, and then they'll do another 4 with the same character,
or like how Rocafort,
like Shadowhawk,
like Rocafort is doing it right with Broken. He gets paid for the Broken. He goes, he finishes it, delivers it, and then does issue 2.
Right. So, it seems to work when you can give them more.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, especially with crowdfunding.
Not Indica.
You
Thanks
know
for
what
calling me out, Luke. Yeah, Indica. Yeah.
We have 39 people in the chat. If you guys haven't seen this, I want to show it once again. So I drew this live tonight for everybody. And if you give me 1 second.
Here, I'll do it for you.
Do it for me. Okay. I drew this live tonight for Halder, and he had suggested this on my Twitter page. Every Monday, I create a thread where you can go in, make a suggestion of a character. We will draw it live. I will ink it live, and you guys get to reap the rewards. So get your friends, get everybody in here, get them all to do this. 40 people. See, I'm talking to all 40 of you. All 40. So get free art, guys. Make those suggestions. Come follow me and Will on X and Red.
So this is Halder's piece now, right?
This is Halder's piece. This is going home to Halder.
All right, look at that, Halder.
Halder, buddy, it's you. It's all you. It's gonna go home to you.
I know you are, Luke. Tokamai says it depends on the story. A numbering system implies a continuous story. You should only number when it's the same story, new book, and title.
Yeah, I understand what Tokamai is saying. Yes, exactly, because that makes sense, right? Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I'll make it clear that Meathead 1 of 3, and then obviously when the third one is done, I'll put it together.
2 of 3, and then 3 of 3.
Again, for me, it's a matter of economics. Otherwise, it will take forever.
Yeah, I had totally had that out of my mind until he said latex. Yeah, you're actually working on a project with Tokamai. I'd forgotten about that.
I am
hush stuff,
I do so much for so many people currently. It is so insane, but apparently I'm at the part of my life where I can just draw. Just draw. So, and
that's
it just
called professional.
I'm okay with. Well, it used to not be like this. I can now
Yeah.
when I sit down, it's like boom, boom.
Well, I
boom,
know
boom,
you've done a
boom.
lot of portraiture.
Oh yeah, I could draw portraits like crazy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good portrait artist. In fact, the first stuff I was interested in when I was younger was drawing portraits. It was cool. It was fun. So I used to
Were you
draw.
a monster kid? Because you're Frankenstein, and you know your Mrs. Frankenstein was Bride of Frankenstein was off the chain. I loved
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a monster person. I'm a little young for some of those older movies, but the
Mhm.
monsters I was into were like.
Well, I wasn't born in 1930 either, Crager.
I yeah, I get that, but I
Yeah.
wasn't 13 in 1977. I was
Right.
like 3, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
You had
or 4
Thundercats and He-Man
and Voltron
and Voltron and
uh-huh
the
and
Silverhawks and Brave
oh
Star.
oh the Silverhawks were so awesome. I spent the day like a
Yeah.
month ago just drawing Silverhawks. I had never done it before, and when I was a kid watching that show, all I had ever wanted to do was learn how to draw the Silverhawks. I sat down literally a month ago and just drew Silverhawks. It was cool. I had fun. So, Moomra Starcon. Do you remember the name of the bad guy from Silverhawks? What's his name? Darkstar?
No, I do not. I know Marvel had a comic book, and I know they had a toy line. Did you have any of the toys?
I didn't. I didn't have those toys. The only toys I had from those type of lines were I had some GoBots.
Okay.
I didn't have like real Transformers.
Yeah.
They sold out so
GoBots
quick.
came first.
Yeah, GoBots were awesome.
I
Monstar.
mean, I don't know where they are collectability wise, but they got to be worth something.
They probably are. So,
yeah.
Garbage Pail Kids. Those cards,
the stickers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The first run of those Garbage Pail Kids cards, I remember those.
Mm-hmm.
I remember break dancing. Everybody break danced.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can still break dance. I can still like do the whole, you know. You
gotta be limber, man. You must be limber.
No, not limber at all. I just remember how it flowed. So we used to do all that stuff, man. Nice. Yeah, it was cool. So
Miami Vice style, you know.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I watched cartoons at that time. I loved Voltron. I loved Thundercats. I loved Shadowhawk, or the Silverhawks. The Running Man, that was awesome. That was one of my favorite things. Gleaming the Cube. I wish somebody would release that on DVD, please. And
I have a copy of it.
And pump up the volume.
I have a copy of that.
Pump up the volume, dance.
Yeah. I want those movies. I want them badly, and I don't know why they're not out on DVD. I can't find a pump up the volume.
Pump up the volume's on Blu-ray.
Is it?
Yeah, I'll have it.
You better send it to me.
I mean, of course I do.
I want to draw your next book for you.
I love that film.
I love it too, man. Such a good show. Happy Harry
Hard-On collection hostage.
That's right.
I have a
Death
digital
Burger.
copy of Gleaming the Cube.
That's rad.
Did you have a Rubik's Cube? Speaking of cubes, I just wondered if you guys had a Rubik's Cube.
I have 4 Rubik's Cubes. Yes.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I think I solved it once in my lifetime and said, I've done it. You know, my brother liked to continuously mess with that thing. I was like,
a couple years ago, I dedicated myself to learn the Rubik's Cube, and I spent about a year like on and off just trying to learn the algorithm, and then one day I just was like, fuck this, I'm gonna learn it. So I did it, and for a while, of course I could do the cube, but it's been like a year and I couldn't tell you what that algorithm was right now in my head. I know I could probably get about halfway through the cube and then I'd have to look up what the sequence is. But in most cases, when I'm prepared, I can do a cube in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
When I've memorized the algorithm again. So I'm not super fast. I'm not like a genius at it. It's a total algorithm thing. There's people who can look at a Rubik's Cube, know exactly how many turns they have to turn it and which way to do it. I am not like that. I have to run it through the whole sequence to get it to do what it's supposed to do.
Jason.
Should've
Crager.
blind
Not
me.
Crager. Bascom.
He's
You
always
have-
got to be the dissenter. He knows he
Yeah.
loves it.
He'll go on forever. Yeah, Rex will keep it going. It is getting late. It is almost 10 o'clock and midnight Rex's time. I'm sure it's way past his bedtime.
It's past
And
mine. It's almost
I'm turning into a
9:48.
pumpkin and Japanese simultaneously.
Well,
We're
I know
2
I know
hours
that
past mine.
I know that Will has to get to bed, so we're going to bring this to a close here. I
Screeching
appreciate you,
halt.
Rex,
Appreciate
coming
you.
in, hanging
Thank
out.
you.
You're always fun to talk to. I love when you ask questions because then I get to like talk about myself. So,
Yeah.
so it's fantastic, and it genuinely seems like you actually want to know. So that's awesome too.
Well, that's how
Anyway-
you get to know each other, right? And we share like interests, so it's very easy conversation.
Exactly.
Great show. Everybody's
Exactly.
saying thank you, everyone.
Well, I appreciate all 40 of you coming out tonight. I don't know how many people are out on X. Hopefully a whole mess of you. If you haven't shared or liked or pressed any of those buttons, please subscribe so that you can get some free art. So
Yeah.
go find us on X.
Same
Go
as it
find
ever
us
was.
everywhere.
Good
and
night,
Same as
take
it
care.
ever
everybody.
was.
Yes. So we're gonna end the show right now with as always our little intro.
And go check out Devil Flower on Fun My Comic, please.
Yeah, please go do everything Rex has
Thank you,
told
Luke.
you. So and
No, don't do that. Not to contradict the host, but don't do that.
you all have a wonderful night. Thank you for coming out. Halder,
Good night,
you're the
everyone.
man. And good night. Thanks.